Okay. So yesterday, at the end of at the beginning of the day, we were finishing up some of the svaras that the Gemara said. Why is it that a woman who's a Sotah is enemis yebemes, but also requiring chalitza? And Rav's svar was nesra b'mutala, but also la kol shekain. And we had a svar from Rabbi Yosef that anyone who's going to marry this woman clearly has a different set of values because they don't mind a woman who could potentially ruin their household. So how could we force someone to make yibum in such a case? Then we had the Mishnah who told us that if a woman says Tamani Loch or Adam to Shetmeya, or a woman doesn't want to drink, or her husband doesn't want to drink, or if her husband is disqualified, so I'm giving her to drink because he had relations with her, all of those women remain usher to eat truma. The Gemara went with a chiddush from Absheshes that if there are Adam anywhere in the world, even though we're completely unaware of that fact, that saw that she was nitmas, the mayim won't work. That was the shita of Absheshes. We had kashas on it, but the Gemara remained with that svara. We had a machlokes between Rab Shimon and the Chachamim. Rab Shimon says that even if a woman has chusim, it will not be toilet b'mayim amorim. And we had the Kamad Rabban who said that if she has chusim, it would protect her from the mayim amorim. We had another discussion as to even if she has chusim and you hold that it protects her from the mayim amorim, is she completely free, or will she still be misnavne vayleches? Will she still experience the symptoms and eventually die, but it will happen to her slowly? So there was that child as well. And the Gemara ended up saying that according to Reb Shimon said that you cannot say that schus is toilah because then it undermines the power of the me'amorim. A, women won't be so afraid, and B, even if a woman comes out alive, she won't be exonerated because people are going to say that it was chus toilah. Nevertheless, at the end of the Gemara said that Reb Shimon might agree that Adam would save her, but that wouldn't ruin her exoneration because nobody's going to think that that's why she was saved. They might be choshed that she was saved because of chusim. That's common, but that there should be Adam somewhere that aren't coming to say Eidos is very, very unlikely, and therefore that wouldn't ruin the fact that she was exonerated for the fact that she didn't react to the Mayim Hamar. Okay, we had the Gemara a little bit about that if for some reason during the process of her Sotah, it has to stop. For instance, Adam came that she was insa, or she was moida, or she died, or her husband died, the mincha becomes disqualified, and the mincha has to be burnt where pasal karbanos are burnt. Okay, and that takes us to the next Gemara on Zayin Amud Aleph, which continues a little bit with Sotah the Gemaras, but then very soon we get back into a long bout of Agadita. Beautiful Agadita Gemara. So let's start at the beginning of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. I just wanted to announce that today's broadcast is being sponsored by the Beagle family, by Mrs. Beagle specifically, Le'ila Nishmas, her father, whose boy Yom Yortzeit is not today. Her father's name was Malchuf Ben Elio, Mr. Max Maman, whose Yortzeit is Chaf Aleph Nisan. Tei Nishmasa Trua B'Tzarachayim. Ketzad Oisala. What is the process of the Sotah? So he finds that his wife was Soiser. Whether or not you hold that even if he himself knows it, or whether or not you hold like the Tana who holds me to Adam. But once that's determined, he takes her to the local base. He takes her to the local bezdin, and of course, this whole process of Sotah occurs in the Beis Hamikdash. So from wherever he is, he's going to have to make a trip with her to the Beis Hamikdash. Anything could happen when they're in a hotel at night on their trip. So therefore, to prevent anything from happening, the they dispatch to accompany this couple to Talmidei Chachamim, Shema Yavai Allah B'derech, just in case he will sin with his wife along the way. That's correct. Rabbi Yehuda says there's no need to send along a mashgiach or two mashgiachim. He is neman. You have to understand. He's going to take her because she rebelled against him. In such a matzav, we're not concerned. So let's do the numbers. Trei ve'iyu, two Talmidei Chachamim with him. That's a total of 3 people. Hatlasa. So it seems like our Mishnah says that to protect someone from Yichud, you need 3 people. Lem Messiah Rav. This should be a raya to Rav. Where do we say that the Gemara Kedusha says that an Isha could be miyachid with 2 men? That's enough of a shmira. That's in the city. But if they're traveling, it will be asur al tzeichut unless she's traveling with 3 men. Why? Because Shema yitztach echad mem l'nekeva. One of them might have to move away from the area. And the result is going to be that one of them is going to be misyachid with the erva. So therefore, you need to have 3. Okay. Zog to Gemara, Loi, you don't have a raya to Rab's halacha from here. We want that there should be Adam. If anything happens, we want that there should be Adam. Okay. Zogt Rashi, what does it mean? Why do you need Adam? Im Yavai, if he will be Bala, Yidu Allah lebez nagodo, so that they can tell the bez nagodo that these people are disqualified from the Mayim Hamorim v'lo yashkua, and they will not give her from the Mayim Hamorim. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gemara, Talmidei Chachamim in kula amaloi. They can't just have 2 people; they have to be Talmidei Chachamim, like our Mishnah says. Why is that? Lema Messiah le'idich the Rav. This should prove another halacha that Rav taught us. That we say that a woman could be miyachid with 2 men be'ir and 3 men be'sada. That's only if they're kosher mentioned. Aval prutin, but if they're prutin, afilu asara nami lo'i. Even 10 people is considered yichud. And to prove it, there was a story. Ma'isahaya hoitziu asara b'mita. There was a pruta and with 10 prutzim, and they took a woman out. She posed like she was dead. They posed like they were the Chever Kedisha, carrying her out of the city. And when they got out of the city, they went to a secluded area and they did an Aveir. So you see, even prutzim, even 10 people, is not a shmira. And there's a shaila, there's shtickle mikotza lakotza. I'm sharing on the one hand, to prutzim on the other hand. What about a regular guy? So I believe the Mepharshim explain. I believe thank you so much. I believe the Mepharshim say that if they're not prutzim, a regular person is considered a ksheira. But I'll call upon him, you have a right to Rav that it needs to be Talmidei Chachamim. But we're loy, the Yodi Liyasriyabei. They don't need to be Talmidei Chacham. The reason why over here the Talmidei Chachamim is because they need to know how to warn him. And here there's a little bit of a difference between Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi says the Yodi Lisriya Bey is to be able to tell him Minatayra. They need to understand the halacha enough to explain that Kishaena ish menukim avain shabala mishanashalov eina mayim b'tnes ishtoi. They need someone who will be able to convince him not to be choite with his wife by telling him over the Torah that says that eina mayim b'tnes ishtoi. If there's tam amaratzim, they won't have the sophistication to be able to explain this to him. That's why you need to be Talmidei Chachamim according to Tosfos. According to Rashi, Tosfos says, we say the same thing by going to Ir Miklat. Shema Yahargenu B'derech. Maybe he'll kill the guy. Maybe he will be killed. The person who killed B'shoigig, he might get killed B'derech. The die of Gemara, my love to Osterbay. It must be speaking where he was warned already, the Ikato Barkatolahu. Because if they killed him, they'll be Mechuyev Misa. So over here, what are they Asra for? They're not allowed to. If they come and kill him, then they're only going to be punishable. They're only going to be punishable if they had a Asra. So Tosha built some here that in order for Edom to give a proper Asra, in order to give somebody an Einish, the Edom have to be Talmid Chacham. Shema Yahargenu B'derech is mashma. It's mashma that people are going to kill this Ritzech that's running away. So the question is are they allowed to know? So I don't know the sugi over there. So I'm not sure. I always understood that until he gets into their miklat, they could kill him. So not if he's in their miklat. Right? So I'm not sure what this is referring to, but so I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what the case is, but whatever it is, it's a case where there's going to be something happening that's also to do, and hasra would be necessary. And hasra is only hasra is only a good hasra if it's done by Talmid Chacham. Okay, gewaltig. I guess so. They'll know how to do that hasra properly. I'm sorry? But the hasra is so in order that they can get punished. Okay, so let's see the Gemara right there. Okay, so we tried to bring a raya to two halachas of Rab. One is that you need three, and the Gemara said it's not a raya, and one is that they need to be Talmid Chacham, and again you don't have a raya. Zok the Gemara weiter. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Baila. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Baila Nemon Mikal V'Chayim. So Rabbi Yehuda in our mission just says that no Edom are required. The husband is Nemon to go with his wife, and Nemon that he wasn't Chaytek. How do we know that? So there's a brisa who says we know that from Mikal V'Chayim. Uman Nida Shiba Karetz. A man who lives with his wife who's a Nida is Chayiv Karetz. Nevertheless, Baila Nemon Aleh, we don't find that any time someone's a Nida, they have to move into separate houses. We're believed. Sotah, Shiba Lab. Sotah, which is not such an Isser Chomer, like Kolshakin, surely if he's believed that he won't be over in Isser Karetz, it's trusted, surely we could trust him not to be over in Isser Lab. Rabbanan, the Rabban said it's exactly the opposite for it. He on the senes needed a Karetz when you're talking about an Isser Chomer, Chamir Leum Hemen. That he's afraid of. He won't want to take a chance with, and he'll be Nizar. But Sotah, the Lav, Sotah is only Nizar Lav, Loi Chamirla. It's not so severe to him, and that's why we cannot trust him, we cannot rely on him. But Loi Mehemen, and then he won't be believed. So that was the brisa that explains the Machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda Shita is based on the Kal V'Chomer. The Rabbanan hold it's not a good Kal V'Chomer. Practically, Rabbi Yehuda Mikal V'Chomer Ma'isila. So you're telling me that Pshat in Rabbi Yehuda, the whole core of Rabbi Yehuda, is his Kal V'Chomer. I'll prove to you that that's not the reasoning behind Rabbi Yehuda's halacha. But Rabbi Yehuda Mikroy Ma'isila, I'm going to show you the brisa where Rabbi Yehuda supports his position by bringing a raya from Psukim that the Baal is Mehemen. The Tanya V'Heviya Ish Ishtoi Elakoyin. So the Torah is clearly saying only the husband has to be there to bring his wife. Minat Torah Ish, maybe it's Ishtoi. Minat Torah, the husband's Demon. Avo, however, Omru Chachamim, the Chachamim were Machmer, and they said, Moistrin Loi, Shnei Tamid Chachamim, Shema Yavai Aleh B'der. Now, this Tanakama is not, it's not indicated who is the Baal HaMaimer here. Rabbi Yosy argues and says, Baal Nemon Aleha Mikal V'Chaymer. The Baal is Nemon not to be chayte with his wife with a Kal V'Chaymer. Umani da shehi b'kares Baal Nemon Aleha. Sotah she belav loy kol shekain. Amruloi, the Chachamim told Rabbi Yosy, loy im amrit benida shekin yesh leheter. By nida, you know why he's believed? Because he has a shikol pas masaloi. Eventually, she'll become tahar, and he'll be able to live with her again. Once she's a soita, she will never be mutter to him again. The Omer, and the pasuk also says, "Ma'im genuvim nimtaku." There's a special geschmack for someone to be over an avera. So therefore, being that she's also to him, why is it that that's a reason why he shouldn't be believed? We're gonna. Which two psukim? We didn't get to yet. We're still focusing on the Chachamim having their debate with Rabbi Yosy, and they said that the Kavachayim shouldn't work. A is Nida has a yesh heter. There's a heter coming up, and also there's the svar of Ma'im Genuvim Taku, which we have to understand how that works. I mean, you have Ma'im Genuvim by a Nida as well, so we're going to have to get an understanding of what that is, and we'll go back there in a second. Rabbi Yehuda, now let's see how the Brisa quotes Rabbi Yehuda. We had Rabbi Yehuda earlier quoted in the Brisa that is Mekar Kal. Now we're going to have a dissenting opinion of what Rabbi Yehuda's Mekar is. Rabbi Yehuda in the Torah Haish maybe it's Ishtoi Alakoyin Shnemer Behevi Ish Ishtoi. So how could you tell me Rabbi Yehuda's Mekar Kal? You have over here a pasuk, and for the Gemara, Amar Lahu Kal Bereisha. Rabbi Yehuda's first argument to the Chachamim was through a Kal V'chomer that the husband should be trusted. Uparchua, but they slugged up the Kal V'chomer. They had two good kashas. A that needs more chomer, and B is needed yesh heter. So once the Kal V'chomer was overschlagen, then Rabbi Yehuda reverted back to the pasuk V'adu Amalukra. Right, the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda brought the same pasuk as the Tanakama brought. So what's the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama? Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama. The Tanakama said, even though you have a pasuk, midirabanan, they insisted on sending along with him two Talmidei Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda himself holds we didn't change the daraisa, and in fact, a person is never to go with his wife. That's a Sotah, and we trust him that he won't be chayted. Is this right? I guess Rabbi Yehuda understood the pasuk differently than you did. Vice to vice.
It's interesting. The Gemara doesn't look at it at all from her angle. If she knows she's guilty and she is and she has relations with him, then the Ma'im Sotah won't work on her.
So she has an incentive to.
She has a life or death incentive to be mizana with him.
I hear.
Gemara totally doesn't even consider that.
Well, you have to understand. The Gemara usually presents things from the male perspective, but the Gemara probably takes that into account. Will the husband be able to be trusted, knowing that there's a willing participant? Usually, there's no problem. They don't want that.
I would imagine she would try to seduce him.
Right.
To avoid that.
Right. That's the only reason why there's a shasha. There's a shy that you can trust him or not. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen anyway because they don't want.
God.
The only reason why this is even a discussion is because now she has an interest.
Oh.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem because even if he would want, she wouldn't.
All of a sudden, she finds him interesting.
That's right. We know for sure. The last 2 weeks, she had no interest in him. She was very busy.
All of a sudden, she's laughing at his jokes. She's laughing at his jokes. She's attention to him.
He's thinking, hey, we've never had such good shalom bayis. Why would I want to take her and get her killed? Times have never been better.
Exactly.
But the Torah probably understands that psychology. So therefore, the Torah says, he's going to think suddenly his shalom bayis improved. We better protect him. Because otherwise, the moment the Sotah water fails, she's going to go back to her wonderful self.
Exactly.
So let's see, Tosfos, why did the Gemara add in the V'omer Mayim Genuvim Taku as another reason why we can't trust him? And I'm not sure I understand Tosfos, but I'll read it anyway. V'omer Mayim Genuvim, Nira Zok Tosfos, The Haiva Omer Perusha Hachi. This is what the Gemara is trying to add. Kloimar, my Tali Bahachi, Chain Heteli Surah. What does the Gemara mean to say that about this Sotah, there's never a heter, Mashek and the Nida will eventually be mutter? Exactly, why is that a reason why he's going to be chayte? Zogt the Gemara, Chado the Yitzray Toigvoi, Me'achar Shein Heter Li Surah. Since there's never a time where this woman will be mutter to him, therefore ein masam bedavar. Therefore, Anita could say, I'll control myself because in a couple of days I'll be able to have her. But here he knows he will never be able to have her, so he can't even calm himself down and tell himself to wait a couple of days. His attitude is right. I'll tell him with the cheshaf me'eshna. Everyone becomes a lamdin when his Yitzhara is there to help him, right? You might say that Vibalti already had relationship with her once in the past. Such a person doesn't have just to keep us a Yitzhar, similar to what we say by Nida. Mayim Ganuvim Taku. He'll have a special interest in her now that she's prohibited to him. So therefore we cannot trust him, and we need to send him with the Shema. They brought her to the big Bezdin in Yerushalayim. This is the Bezdin, the full Sanhedrin of 71, the same Sanhedrin that will be needed to kill a person. I'm sorry, you only need 21 to kill. You only need a Bezdin of 21 to kill, right? So we'll have to see who this Bezdin is. But the Bezdin of Yerushalayim, I assume, is the full Sanhedrin. That's a full Sanhedrin. And they scare her to try to get her to be Maida. So they shouldn't have to erase the Shem Hashem in the Parsha. Not much different than they do to scare Eidim that are coming to say Eidos that's going to cause somebody to get killed. Because again, we don't want to kill somebody in vain. We want to make sure that these Eidim are saying the truth. And they tell her, Biti, Mantai de Tochten, Harbe Yainoise. They try to show her that they understand her perspective. We know you made a mistake. You had too much wine. These things happen. So tell us about it. We're not judging you. We understand that things happen. Frivolous behavior causes mistakes. Youthfulness, naivet, immaturity. You're in a bad neighborhood. That causes averus. We understand. Tell us about it. Don't deny it. So he takes the Bach takes us out. Don't cause the Shem Hashem that was written b'kedusha shelo yimach alamayim. Oh, so he says sheyimach alamayim. Here, and he puts it earlier. Okay, v'omer lefanel dvarim. They tell her things she'enam kedai l'shayman hi v'chol mishpachas v'esaviyah. They say things that einu ru'uyala. It's not appropriate to tell her these things, but we tell her them anyway, so that she should be moida. And the Gemara will tell us what they tell her is Yehuda did a chet and he was moida. Reuven did a chet and he was moida. You can join them. Zok de ben Yahayada. The reason why it's in real Shmoiman because Avada Yehuda was not chayte. Avada Reuven was not chayte. She's 1,000,000 times worse than Yehuda and Reuven. So we say things that are incorrect just to be able to induce her to be moida. If she admits that she's tamei, all that happens is sheveris ksubasa. She loses her ksuba. Sheveris means she writes a receipt to her husband that she accepted the ksuba, and therefore she doesn't get the ksuba anymore, and he dismisses her. She doesn't get killed. There was no edim. She walks free. She just loses her ksuba. Then she's out. But if she insists that she's tahira, then Mailan Oisa l'Shar Mizrach Shal Pesach Shar Niknar. They walk straight in through the center of the Azara to Shar Niknar. Shar Niknar was the center two gates that you went from the Ezra's Noshim into the Ezra's Yisrael through. That was a unique space. Shisham mashkin es Sotahs. That's where Sotahs drank the Me'amar, and that area in the walls were very thick, so the doorway was maybe 10 feet thick, right? In that doorway was not Kadosh, with the Kedushas Hazara. So even someone who is Tomei could stand there. Umatardus Ayoldas, that's where the Yoldas would stand as well during their Karbonis of Tahira, because they're allowed to stand there, even though they're Mechutza Kippurim, because it didn't have Kedushas Hazara. Umatardus HaMetzorayin, they had to stick, the Mitzvah to stick their thumbs in to the Hazara itself to get this Rikas Dam. So only their thumbs passed the threshold into the actual Ezra Yisrael where there was Kedusha, but Bias B'Miktas Lo have a Bia, meaning the Balt was only their thumbs that went in. We don't consider that they're going in illegally into the Hazara. And then the Kohen Oiches B'Begdeha, the Kohen would grab her beged and give it a yank. Im nikru, if it had one tear, fine. Im niframu, if it totally fell apart, niframu, that's no problem. Achu megalas liba, until he uncovers her chest. That's a big thing. That will be done. V'soiser Asira, and he ruins her braided hair. Rabbi Yehuda says, if she was a pretty woman, it was too dangerous to undress her like that. They wouldn't uncover her. Again, the Ben Yoda says, Vos epis, they're megala es liba. So the Ben Yoda tells us that when animals feed their young, they have udders. Women have breasts. Where are the udders found on a behemoth? Close to the Mokam Erva, close to the Mokam Arei. So animals, when they nurse, they're nursing from a really disgusting part of the body. But where do humans nurse from? They nurse from a mother's breasts who are by the heart, to symbolize that a mother is not just giving her children nourishment. Part of the nourishment that a mother feeds her child is from the heart. She's infusing the child with Abbas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And that's why it's by the heart. People, there's a cliche that people say, oh, this tzaddik, his mother nursed him with Yiras Shamayim. It's not a cliche. It's very, very real. And that's bedafka why the place of nourishment is by the woman's heart, because she's giving him kedusha. She's giving her child kedusha. So this woman who ruined her kedusha, and she used what she was supposed to use for kedusha, for yisurim, we're trying to highlight that. So every movement is very symbolic. And her hair, the reason why they're so sure her hair is we know that every hair has its own follicle that it grows out of the scalp from. You know, everything is exactly perfect in its proper place. Everything's masudar. And she mished things around. She's going to have children. We're not going to know who they're from. Things aren't going to be masudar. So we're all of these things are symbolic to show that she's ruining the seder of how things are supposed to be. What if she wore nice white clothing? She has to wear clothing that aren't so nice. If she had golden jewelry or chokers made out of gold, nizamim, nose rings, tabois, rings for her fingers, they take them off her. She shouldn't be showing off her jewelry at a time like that. We want to make her feel humble and scared so that she should be moida. The achgach maybe chevel mitzri. They take a Egyptian rope, which is really made out of reeds, so it's cheap. It's not a hermé belt. It's a very rough thing. The kaishroi l'mayla midadeha. They tie her clothing above her breasts so that her clothing shouldn't fall off because they're undoing stuff. The katli loy, some of these pieces of jewelry were used to hold her clothing together. So she had a cape that was wrapped around her. What would hold the two ends together would be the jewelry. By taking off the jewelry, her clothing could fall off. So that's why they wrapped her in a chevel mitri to hold up her clothing. And you know what? Whoever wants to come, and at this point we think both man and woman can come and see this, even though it's not sneistic, but I guess such a mara people need to see. Who may not come? Her avodim, her shvachos. You know why? In front of them, she's going to feel like a knacker. We're trying to get rid of that nun. and she's going to feel like a knacker, and that will cause that she won't be moida. V'chol hanoshim mutaris l'roisa, and all the women are mutar to see her, which the Gemara is going to ask. You just said a moment ago, v'chol haroitza l'rois, and now you're saying v'chol hanoshim. Shenemar v'noisru kol hanoshim, all the women will see the musar, they'll be warned, v'lois teyasena kezimas chena, and they won't do like yours mus. Minanamili, how do we know this halacha? Zok Gemara. Rashi says, how do we know that it's the best nagadol that you need? We know it has to be in Yerushalayim. The full Sanhedrin. Minalon, the loin is kashuba, echad, mishnei batidinim, shayusham, shalashim ushloisha. Oh, Chaim, you corrected me, 423. That's right. How do you know that it wasn't from the other two batidinim that were also added by the base of Mikdash, that only had 23 members? Echad Yoshev al Pesach Harabais. One bezin sat at the entrance to Harabais. Vechad Yoshev al Pesach Hazorah. Why? How do we know that it has to be the best nagadol? Is in Hedron of 71. Dr. Mar also Torah. Steve Hacha, it says over here, V'asallah Kain is called Hatayra, Uksifasim al Piyat Torah Sheyerucha, Mal Alon B'Shivim Vechad, just like the pasuk of al Piyat Torah Sheyerucha is referring to the Hedron Nagadol, Afkan by Sotah B'Shivim Vechad. We scare or minu. The same way on a Sotah, we actually also scared that she should drink. So how could our Mishnah say we only try to convince her not to drink? We have a brisa that says you sometimes convince her to drink. I'm going to tell her, Biti, if you're talking so sure that you are Torah, don't be scared by what we're telling you. Adrabah. Stand confident. Don't panic. If you're sure you're Torah, drink ushasi. You know why? There's nothing to worry about. It's like a dry medicine that's sitting on skin. It's like I look at like a powder type of medicine. If there's a makkah and it's moist, it'll be absorbed into the makkah and then it'll be very potent. But ain't makkah, if you have clean skin and there's no break in the skin, it's regular powder. Any moil klum, it won't have any impact on you. So, Frank Gemara, how could you say we're only ma'ayim or not to drink? You see, we're convincing her yes to drink. Dr. Gemara makes a big difference. Like kasha, kan kodim shenim chavcha megillah. Before they actually were moiching the megillah with the water, then we only tell her not to drink, so that we don't have to be moichim k'shem Hashem. But once we do it already, kan shalacha shenim chavcha megillah, then we're going to tell her that she should drink it, so that it shouldn't be that we were moichik the megillah, we're moichik the Shem Hashem for no reason. We tell her things that she doesn't deserve to hear. And stories that happened in the Ksuvim Marishonim. Asher Chachamim Yagidu, Chachamim said over, they weren't afraid of their fathers. What is this pasuk referring to? Yehuda Haida V'lai Buish. Yehuda was Moida Tzad Kamimeni, Ma Yosefai. What was his end? Nochal Chaya Olam Ba. So you can be Moida. It's a horrible avera what you did, if it's true. But that doesn't mean there's no hope for you. You could be Moida, you could do tshuva, and you'll still be Zoichet to Olam Haba. Reuben Haida V'lai Buish. Ma Yosefai. He was Moida that he was Mekalkal Yitziav, if he moved his mother's bed into the tent. What Ma Yosefai? Nachal Chaye Ha'olam Haba. Umas Choron, and what schar did they get? Mas Choron, Kidei Karmini, you just told us a second ago that they went to Olam Haba. Ella, what we mean is Mas Choron by the Mazeh. They had schar in Olam Hazeh as well. What was the schar? Lahem levadam nitn ha'aretz. The land was given to them alone. And Rashi says that means they each got unique gifts. And the unique gifts that they got was Yehuda was Zoicha to Malchus, and Reuben took the first Chelek in Eber Hayarden. So they both had a unique schos in how they were rewarded a part of the land. And when Moshe gave a bracha to the Shvatim, it went straight from Reuven to Yehuda, and there was nobody given a bracha in between Reuven and Yehuda. They didn't hide it. They didn't lie. Okay, shkoyach, shkoyach. That's right. That's right. Bishlam by Yehuda, Ashkechan the Oidi. Bishlam by Yehuda, you find he was moide. Yachsiv Yakar Yehuda, Vayomer Tzotka Mimeni. Ela Reuben Minol the Oidi. Where do you see that Reuben was moide? Amar B'Shmuel by Nachmeni Amar B'Yochanan. My Dechsiv. What did Moshe Rabbeinu say in V'Zois HaBracha? Yechi Reuven Ba'al Yamois. And then right after that, the pasuk goes V'Zois Yehuda. Vayomer Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda, right? So we learn that Kalosin Hashanim, Kalosin Shanim, Yisrael b'Midbar, all the years that Klal Yisrael were in the Midbar, they carried with them the bones of the Shvatim. So all of the Shvatim, their bones were sitting and resting nicely in their aroinos. But Hayu Atzmoshel Shal Yehuda, Migul Galoin Ba'aroin, they were rolling around in the aron. His skeleton wasn't complete. The bones weren't attached. They were loose bones floating around. Achamat Moshe Ubikesh Olav Rachamim. Moshe got up and was Mabakash Rachamim on behalf of Yehuda. What prompted Reuven to be made on his chait? It was Yehuda. Because when Reuven saw that Yehuda said, Tzot kami meni, that was a hisayrus for Reuven to be made as well. So therefore, V'zois Yehuda. So Yehuda should have that. V'zois Yehuda, the same chusim that Reuven has, Yehuda should have as well. Because Yehuda brought Reuven's chusim. Miyad, Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda. And what happened was all Ivrei L'Shafa, his Avarim went into the right place, but they still didn't let Yehuda into the main Besmedrash of Shemayim, the tumult and learning with the people there, the Neshamas there. So then Moshe Rabbeinu added, bring him into his nation. So they let him into the Besmedrash. But the crossfire going on, the people tumbling and learning, he was like overwhelmed. They couldn't get a word in edgewise. We'll have a kayadi, mishkal and mitrach. He wasn't able to handle and learning b'shemaitz about the rabbanon. So then Moshe said, Yod of Ravloi. So then he was able to already tumble and learning, but nobody liked his pshatim. Every svar he said they rejected. We'll have a kasalka l'shemaitz ali b'dehilchaso. So then Moshe Rabbeinu said, Ve'ezer mitzarav tiyeh. So then Yehuda got his proper place in Shemayim in the Mesivta Derekiah. So Yehuda the Aidi, I understand why Yehuda was Maida. You know why Yehuda was Maida? He hechid the sister of Tamar. If Yehuda wouldn't have been Maida, Tamar would have been killed because they would have said she was Mizana. Ela Reuben lama le the Aidi. Why was Reuben Maida? It was wrong that he was Maida. The Amrab Sheshes chatzuf alai the mafret chatoi. It's a very big chutzpah to announce your affairs. It's no one's business. Memel, if he has to save someone's life, pashtayach. But stam to announce your affairs, that's unacceptable. You're not allowed to announce your affairs. So tomorrow, the reason why he announced it is he didn't want that his brother should be suspected who did this move. So he announced it to relieve the chashash from his brothers. They shouldn't be nachshad. That's right, but once he admits it, so then they're not chashad anymore. So then she writes a shaver. The question is, why does she have to write a shaver? Just tear up the ksuba. Shemas mina kaisvin shaver. You see that there's a receipt written, which means that's incumbent on the husband to hold. That's incumbent on the husband to hold on to this receipt. Why should you put him through that? Let's just tear up the ksuba, and then she can't month from him again. Amar Abaye tani makras. It doesn't really mean that you write a receipt. It could mean that you tear up the ksuba. It says she writes a receipt. We learned that in certain places they never wrote a ksuba. With her get, she would be able to go claim the ksuba, because it's assumed that once there's a get, the ksuba is owed. So therefore, if she could claim the ksuba with her get, then she has to write a receipt, because you don't tear up the get because she needs the get to get remarried. So therefore you write a shaver. That's what we're talking about over here. It's interesting because we learned over here, because we finished for the day already, but we learned from here that it's also to be misvada barabim, because it's a shigul chutzpah. You're not embarrassed that you're saying, I'm not worried, I'll tell everybody I did a virus. So there's a very famous story with, I think it was Rabbi Yisrael Shkolov. He was the Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, and he took a group of people up there to Yisrael to make Aliyah. And they were on the boat. I'm sorry? The Prushim. He was on the boat, and there was a terrible, terrible storm, and it looked like the boat was going down, and they were all going to drown. So he said, although normally it's chotzev to announce your averis, because part of it is it makes people say, oh, I can, even when he does averis, I can do averis too. So it's better you shouldn't talk about them. But here we're all dying. We're all going down. If we're all going down anyway, it's not going to cause, by us doing vidui barabim, will not cause anybody else to do averis. We're dying anyway. But at least we can get an extra kapara of being mizvada barabim, so when we go up to Shemayim, our neshamas will be pure. So a little child was chosen to be the first one to say vidui. He wasn't even bar mitzvah yet. And he started crying and crying. He couldn't get the words out. Like, what could this little kid possibly have done? And he's crying and crying. So finally, through the heaves of his crying, he got the word out. I lied to my mother. So they asked him, and how did you lie to your mother? He said, we didn't have enough food. We didn't have enough food. So because of that, I was in cheder. My younger siblings were not in cheder. So my mother gave me lunch, but didn't feed the other kids. And what I would do is I would tell my mother that they served food in cheder, so that I don't need the food, so that my siblings could have the food. And I lied to my mother, and he was crying and crying. What a terrible aveir I did. I lied to my mother. So Rabbi Yisrael Shlov got up and said, Rebbeinu Shalom, we say on Yom Kippur, Penena ala tlois v'al chatois. Look at our struggles and our challenges and our yisurim that we have, rather than focus on our aveirs, focus on how we're punished and what a difficult life we have. That's what we say in Yom Kippur. I'm telling you now, Rebbeinu Shalom, Penena ala chatois v'lo ala tlois. Look at the aveiros of your kindlech. This is the aveiros. This is what your children are crying about. Look at the aveiros and save us. And the sea calmed down, and they all survived. That's how we know the story. And they all made it to Israel safely. Okay, shkoyach. We should be zoichet to be mekayim to the 100 percentile of bir chametz, the real chametz, the chametz in our hearts. And we should be zoichet to the geula, which is the biggest hashpah of geulas tonight by the Siddurim. That's right. It was the Pesach. That's right.